Hi there. Question. What is your most valuable asset? In terms of everything you own in your life, what's the most valuable thing you have? You know, an asset can be defined as something that is worth cash, or that has cash flow, or that can be turned into cash that generates cash flow. So in terms of cash, cash flow, return to you, money in your hands, money in your future, what's your most valuable asset? Your ability to ask and answer this question correctly is absolutely critical to your success in life. Why? It's because your most valuable asset is your earning ability. Your most valuable asset is your ability to earn money. Your ability to earn money is the most precious thing you have. You could lose your house, your car, you could lose your job, your industry, you could move across the country, but if you still have your earning ability, which resides between your ears, you could go out and get a new job and start pumping tens of thousands of dollars a year into your life. Your earning ability is the most valuable thing you have. It's taken your whole life for you to develop your earning ability. All your education, all your experience, all your knowledge, all your work at all your different jobs, all your lessons, all the things you've learned is to develop your most valuable asset, your earning ability. Now, the very fact that I've told you this and that you now know it puts you in a separate category because most people can't answer that question until they understand it. You see, this is worth tens of thousands of dollars to you. What's the difference between you and somebody from Bangladesh, where the average income is maybe $180 a year, or China, where the average income is still $200 a year? I'll tell you, it's your earning ability. You have the capacity, multiplied times the resources of the American economy, to earn one of the highest standards of living ever imagined in the history of mankind because of what resides between your ears. Now, isn't it worth taking good care of that? Isn't it important that you upgrade it? Isn't it important that you analyze it and define it and decide what it is today and where it's going to be tomorrow? Absolutely. Men and women who are great successes in our society are not people who stand there waiting for things to happen. They are people who deliberately take steps to increase and maintain the value of their earning ability. So this brings us to number 2 point, if you like, is what is your most precious resource? Your most precious resource is your time. Your time is the most precious resource that you have. What does it mean? It means that you could lose everything, but as long as you have enough time, you can make it all back. We know that our time, our health, our life is more precious than anything else. In fact, if our life was threatened, we would give up everything we own in the world in order to preserve our lives or the lives of our loved ones. So therefore, if time is your most precious resource and your earning ability is your most valuable asset, here's another question for you. You ready? What is the best investment you can make? Now, there's been lots of studies done on this over the years. The very best investment that you can make is very simple. It is to invest in increasing your earning ability. It's to invest some of your time and some of your money into increasing your ability to earn a living. In fact, in a recent study, they concluded that if you have less than $100,000, the very best place to put your money is back into the place where you made the $100,000 in the first place. If you have achieved a net worth of something, one of the very best things you can do is invest in yourself to increase the amount of money you can earn each year. What is it that most people do? They spend the money and have a good time, and it's gone forever. Now, time and money are interesting. Time and money can be either spent or invested. If you spend time or money, they're gone forever. But if you invest them, what do you get? If you invest them, you get a return. One of the things that you need to do on a regular basis is continually think of how you can invest your time and money together so that you get an ever greater return. If you look at a person who's earning $100,000 a year, this is usually a person who has invested an enormous amount in building up their earning ability. Now, what is the problem with this equation? This is so obvious that you understand it as soon as you see it. This is something that should be taught to young people in school, that the reason they're in school is to develop earning ability. And then they'll understand that teaching is not something, schooling is not something you avoid, but teaching is something vital. The problem is that most people don't understand this because of what I call the old paradigm of education. Do you remember the old paradigm? I was brought up in this in the 60s. This is what they told us. because at that time things were moving very slowly, 50s and 60s. They said you had three parts of life. There were, first of all, you had your learning years. This is where you got your education up to your 20s. Then after that, you had your earning years. That's where you worked until about 65. Then you had your yearning years. And your yearning years, you retired and you lived on that amount. However, there's a new paradigm in education today, and everything has changed. Today, you get your education, and then you get your education, and then you get your education, and you get your education, you get your education, you get your education. Do you know that America is full of men and women who said, thank heavens this is over, I'll never read another book as long as I live? And in the last few years of school, they're saying no more schools, no more books, no more teachers, dirty looks. You probably know about these things. And what happened was they programmed themselves to have a very negative attitude toward having to educate themselves. And when it was over, by gum, it was over. And I've met college, university graduates who are in their 30s and 40s who have never read another book. According to the American Booksellers Association, 80% of American families did not buy or read a single book last year, and yet we are calling this the age of the book. Do you know what this means? Last year, Americans spent about $5 to $6 billion on movies. Now, if you look at every newspaper, every magazine, every newsstand, television, everywhere, you see movies, 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 movies being advertised and talked about. Books, very rarely. Do you know how much Americans spent on books last year? $5.9 billion on movies. They spent $17 billion on books. 3 times the amount that was spent on movies, and yet nobody ever comments on it. And do you know who reads these books? I'll tell you who read these books, the people who are at the commanding heights of our society and our economy. The most important people in our society read continually. In fact, if you just read one book a month, it would put you in the top 1% of living Americans. One nonfiction book a month. The ability to read. Here's a question. If you go into the homes of wealthy people, what's the very first thing that you see? You go into the home of a wealthy person, very wealthy person, what's the very first thing you see? Yes, that's right. You see rows and rows of books. And the wealthier they are, the more likely it is they have an entire library full of books. Now let me ask you a question. Do the books come before the wealth, or does the wealth come before the books? And the answer is the books always precede the wealth. So, going on. This rule for success, and I'll give you this rule, is changed the lives of every single person who's ever tried it, is invest 3% of your income into yourself. Invest 3% of your income back into yourself in the terms of personal and professional development. 3% of your income back into yourself will guarantee your future. It will make you rich. Why? Well, the studies show that for every dollar you invest in yourself to upgrade your skills and knowledge, you'll get about $30 back to your own personal bottom line over time. The studies show that if you invest 3% back into yourself in terms of books, tapes, courses, TPN, and other opportunities to learn, what will happen is that you'll get progressively better and better and better. In fact, we'll talk about this at another time, but all you have to do is be about 3% better in your field in the key areas, and over time that will accumulate and make you one of the best people in your profession or occupation. And by investing a little bit in yourself into yourself on a regular basis, you virtually guarantee it will happen for you. Now here's a rule for you, and I want you to write this down, and I want you to teach your children, and I want you to practice it and keep it as part of your life. It is this: the future belongs to the competent. The future belongs to the competent. The future is not shared by the competent so much, it belongs to the competent. It was Abraham Lincoln who said that the only security a person can ever have is the ability to do a job uncommonly well. The future belongs to those who are good at what they do. The future doesn't belong to people who are average or mediocre at what they do. It belongs to people who are in the top 10% of their field. So what is your goal? Your goal is to get into the top 10%. Your goal is to be one of the best. Your goal is to join the top 10%. And here's something that's important. Whenever we say this, people say, well, gee, you know, the top people in my field, they're so successful, they're doing so well. Let me tell you, the person who is in the top 10% in your field was once in the bottom 10%. The person who is in the top 10% in your field is not better than you. They have just done more of the right things in the right way, and they've gotten a little bit further ahead, a little bit faster. But here's the rule. It's this. Imagine that it is a journey, and the journey starts at 0, and it reaches here, and this is 100. This is the top 10% right here. Well, everybody in your field is on this journey somewhere. And some people are back here, and they're just starting. And some people are here, and they're along the way. Some people are here, and they're in the top 10%. You're here somewhere on this journey. Now, all you have to do to get to where you want to go, and please appreciate this, because I started so far down, I had to look up to see bottom. Please appreciate this, is that all you have to do is put one step in front of the other, and you must eventually achieve your goal. All you have to do is study what the top 10% of people do and do the same things. All you have to do is continuously learn and practice, and as sure as God made little green apples, by putting one step in front of the other, you must get into the top 10%, as long as you set that as your goal. And I have given this advice to thousands of people, and I can tell you, it's an astonishing thing. People think that people who are at the top of their field come from heaven with incredible talents and abilities. No, they're just people who decided to get there. Now, I worked with many of the best people in many fields, and here's the turning point. In every case, when a man or a woman goes to the top, it is after they make a decision to go to the top. After they make a decision that, by gum, I am going to do whatever it takes, and I'm going to work as long as it takes to be the best. I am going to put in the hours. I'm going to shut off the television. I'm going to close down the newspaper. I'm going to stop socializing and wasting time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a decision, and I'm going to keep at it, and I'm going to keep at it, and I'm going to keep at it until I accomplish it. And if you make that decision, I'll tell you what will happen, is that you'll run into a lot of rough weather. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. You're going to have a lot of disappointments. You're going to fall back several times. In fact, we say that life is a history or a process of 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And every time you feel you've made some progress, for a while, somebody else will make more progress than you. But if you keep at it and keep at it, you will ultimately get into the top 10%. If you keep at it for a week, a month, a year, you'll do it. And you know what will happen then? People will turn around and say, well, you sure were lucky. You were just at the right place and the right time. No, it's not being right place and the right time. Every person I've ever met who's at the top of their field made a decision, and from that point onward, they set a goal, and they made a plan, and they went to work, and they kept at it, and they kept at it, and they persisted until they got to the top of their field. And here's the most wonderful thing. The more progress you make in the direction of achieving your goal, the more positive you feel, the happier you feel. The more progress you make, the more motivated you become, the more inspired, the more excited you become, and the more drive, determination, and persistence you have to keep on keeping on until you achieve it. A little bit of success gives you an appetite for a little bit more success, and then a little bit more success, and then a little bit more success. So set the goal, and then put one foot in front of the other until you accomplish it. Now, here's the key to everything. It's one of the most important things I can tell you. It is the mindset or attitude practiced by the top 3% in business today. It is this, is view yourself as self-employed. View yourself as self-employed. In study after study, we have found that the top people in every organization view themselves as self-employed. Even if they work for another company and someone else signs their paycheck all their lives, the top 3% always view themselves as self-employed. They act as if they own the place. They treat the company as if they owned 100% of the stock. They treat themselves as though they were the presidents, the heads of the company. They act as if they're self-employed. This attitude, by the way, is critically important, and let me tell you why. As long as you see yourself and think about yourself as an employee, you'll be passive. It's an irresistible thing. It's hard to avoid it, but you'll see yourself as at the beck and call of others. You'll see yourself as though you're controlled by people on the outside. By the instant you see yourself as if you were self-employed, you go from passive to active. You go from being reactive to proactive. You go from being a person who is looking to other people for direction to a person who is in charge of their own lives. One of the most important things you do in life is you see yourself as the primary creative force in your own life. You see yourself as self-employed. And you start to look at the company, everything that happens in the company, as if it belongs to you. That paperclip on the floor, that's your paperclip. That telephone ringing, that's your customer. That defect in that product or service, that's your responsibility. that will do more to put you onto the fast track in your career than anything else that you can ever imagine. It'll do more to move you ahead more rapidly in your career, to bring you to the attention of others, than any other single act. Start treating the company as though it belongs to you. Now this brings us to 3 key points. Number 1 point is what we call lifelong employability. As you know, the Fortune 500 companies have laid off about 5 million people in the last few years. And they're never going to hire them back because of technology, because of computers, because of downsizing, because of flattening hierarchies, because of robotics and high technology. We can no longer get lifelong employment from any company. Even a company that loves us cannot guarantee us lifelong employment because of the changes that are taking place on the outside. So therefore, we have to guarantee ourselves lifelong employability. What does that mean? It means by looking upon ourselves as though we own the place, we also look upon ourselves as in charge of our own futures, and we do everything possible to assure that we are employable if anything should happen to our company. Imagine your company were to go out of business tomorrow. What would you do? Well, people who work on lifelong employability, constantly keeping their skills sharp and precise and to the point, as keeping their earning ability high, are people who don't worry about losing their jobs. Do you know how many people worry every single day about losing their jobs, about cutbacks and layoffs? But you don't have to worry about that. Because if you've made yourself a highly employable person, if something happens to your current employer, you just walk across the street and you'll get another job. I've spoken to people who've been laid off from their jobs and had 2 or 3 job offers within a week because everybody knows that they're good. And remember what I said, the key to lifelong employability is to be good at doing something that somebody will pay you for. Now the second key to seeing yourself as self-employed is to view yourself as an outside vendor. View yourself as a supplier to your company. View yourself as the president of an entrepreneurial company of one, selling your services to your current employer. Imagine you had to write up, like lawyers and accountants, write up a bill itemizing the things that they've done and submit it every month to your employer to give you a paycheck. Would you be able to write a list of the things that you did and the charges and the value of those? Would your employer read that and say, yes, this is good value, and pay you and continue paying you, or not? What I've found is that most people who are working are not really clear about the association or relationship between their paycheck on the one hand and the work they do on the other. They get this paycheck and they ask for increases and they want more money and time off, but they don't see any relationship between the work and the paycheck. Your job is to think of yourself as the president of an entrepreneurial company of one, selling your services to your current employer. Think of yourself as selling specific units of results that your employer pays you money for, almost as if you were selling something across the counter. And think of yourself with this outside vendor mentality, and it will assure that you keep yourself highly employable. You know as well as I do, with that attitude, if you feel that you're not making a contribution that's greatly in excess of what you're being paid, then you better bring that contribution up quickly, and that assures your earning ability stays high. Now, number 3, quality, is flexibility. And flexibility is vital to your success. Flexibility means that you are willing to try new things. You're willing to adapt yourself to the needs of your current employer. Whatever your employer needs, you give your employer. You know, I spoke to a total quality management consultant. I paid her several $1,000s to do an analysis of my company. And she did an analysis of the company. She came back with dozens and dozens of pages as a result of the analysis. And I said to her, you know, I don't have time to read all that stuff. Can you net it out for me? She said, Brian, she put it all down, pushed it aside. She said, I can net out total quality service or total quality management. Very simple. She said, find out what your customers want and give it to them at a price they're willing to pay. That is total quality management. And since you are viewing yourself as self-employed, since you're seeing yourself as the president of your own company, as a total quality manager, running your company at the top of the field, then you have to see yourself as self-employed, and you have to see that your job is to give your employer what he or she needs and give it to them in a cost-effective and timely way. That means you have to be flexible and adaptable and willing to change and not dig in your heels and resist change and look for new, better, faster, cheaper, easier ways to help your employer to accomplish what your employer wants to accomplish. In doing that, you assure your earning ability. Now, here's the next 2 points. Knowledge and skill today are vital to your success. Knowledge and skill equals earning ability. Your knowledge and your ability to apply that vital knowledge to accomplishing a result for which customers are willing to pay is critical. People who get laid off don't understand that they have not kept their knowledge and skill high enough to justify their earnings. But they are becoming obsolete faster than ever before. That means that a job today can become obsolete in a week, a month, a year. New technology can obsolete an entire industry in a couple of years. So one of the questions you need to ask yourself all the time is this: what is your next career going to be? What is my next career going to be? You know as well as I do that the average person starting work today will have 14 full-time jobs and as many as 6 full-time careers. They will be in as many as 6 totally different industries over the course of your lifetime. What is your next career going to be? And here's the key question: what do you have to do now to bring your skills up to the point so that you can earn the kind of living and have the kind of lifestyle that you want in your next career? The key to your next career is personal excellence. Is get to the top of the heap where you are now, get to the top of the field, and then to stay at the top of the field. To maintain and improve your lifestyle, what do you have to do? What do you have to be? Here's a good question. It's one of my favorite of all questions. Ask yourself, what one skill or set of skills could you develop that if you became absolutely excellent at would have the greatest positive impact on your future? What one skill or what one set of skills, if you could develop them and become absolutely excellent at them, would have the greatest positive impact on your future? Your job is to define that, ask your boss what it might be if necessary, do everything possible to find out, and then develop those skills. Wayne Gretzky is very famous as a hockey player for a quote that he gave to a sports commentator some years ago. The commentator said, "Mr. Gretzky, why is it that you are doing so well in hockey when there are so many competitors?" He said, "Well, most hockey players go to where the puck is, but I go to where the puck is going to be." Your question always has to be is, where is your puck going to be in your career? Where is your puck going to be? Where is your puck going to be? Where is your industry going? Where is your career going? Where is your job or your company going? Because it is in identifying where your puck is going to be and moving there before it does that enables you to become a master of change. Now, if you do not become a master of change, then you have no choice. You become a victim of change. If you don't become a master of circumstances, you become a creature of circumstances. You simply are buffeted about on the seas of life. Throughout everything that we've talked about with regard to earning ability, with regard to fast-tracking your career, with regard to you fulfilling your potential and becoming everything that you're capable of becoming, the critical point is continuous learning. I cannot tell you how important this is. I meet people all over the world who come to America and come here with nothing, and as a result of continuous learning, they're able to accomplish wonderful things and to make great lives for themselves. So take charge of your life. See yourself as the president of your own company. See yourself as a leader. Set the standard in your world. Set the standard for your children. If you want your children to have a great life, you create a great life by dedicating yourself to continuous learning as well. See yourself as a role model, as all leaders do. Set high standards for yourself and work every single day to maintain and increase and improve your earning ability.